All the Young Dudes by Miss Kingpin 89, Chapter 149, 7th Year, Legacy, Part 1. You can nick it. I bet it wouldn't be hard, Sirius said, standing beside Remus in front of the trophy case. Just vanish the glass for a second. Professor Flitwick would notice, Remus raised an eyebrow, distracted now by Sirius's ghostly reflection in the glass. Or one of the Ravenclaws. Nah, the other boy caught his eye and grinned at him, teeth pearly white. No one'll miss it. I think, Remus replied, licking his lips and returning his gaze to the little gold figure on top of the trophy. Lyle would have preferred to stay put. This way, there's always a piece of him at Hogwarts. Have you gone on soppy because it's the last week? Sirius teased him. Remus smiled, unperturbed. Yeah, a bit. Sirius chuckled and leaned towards him confidently. Me too. Remus pulled a face at him. Come on then, I'm hungry. Lunch. They both set off down the corridor towards the Great Hall. Aside from Remus's streak of detentions following the Quidditch final, they'd all had a very relaxing week, with nothing to do but plan for the future. Which, of course, meant that they had done absolutely no planning for the future. We're not leaving anything behind, Remus said, thoughtfully, as they walked. Eh? Sirius asked, distracted by a group of girls who'd walked past, giggling. Remus flicked his ear. Ow! Sirius ducked. They were looking at you, Remus. Fuck me, wee one, Lupin. What were you saying? We won't be leaving anything behind, like Lyle's trophy. James and I are on the Quidditch Cup, and Prongs is head boy. Doesn't that get recorded somewhere? And Peter won that chess tournament. Oh, yeah. Must just be me, then, Remus sighed, forlorn. That's the Whomping Willow? Sirius tried. Remus scowled at him. Well, he supposed, that's what you get for trying not to be noticed. He remained contemplative throughout lunch, which was fish and chips with a choice of mushy or roll, please. Remus experimented with a combination of both. All right there, Moony, James asked, between mouthfuls. You're very quiet. He's worrying about his legacy, Sirius announced. He wants a trophy. Shut up! No, I don't, Remus blushed. If you ask me, that match commentary deserved a medal. Special services to the school, Mary laughed. You can't go anywhere in the castle without hearing someone shout, Buggerin' Christ, that was close. It's brilliant. Remus grinned, feeling a bit better. He'd been quietly enjoying his 15 minutes of fame, and had received enough gifts of cigarettes and chocolate to see him through the summer. Which was just as well, he supposed, because in a few short months he'd have to start supporting himself. Don't worry, Remu. If you know what goes off without a hitch on Friday, James whispered, leaning in, then no one will forget us in a hurry. I thought the point was that no one knew who did it, Remus quirked an eyebrow. Oh, come on, Lily scoffed. And she had a point. Still, Remus couldn't help be a bit troubled. He didn't want his only monument to be the Whomping Willow, or that god-forsaken shack. How do ghosts happen? He asked, thoughtfully, watching Nearly Ed the Snick drift by, chatting with the fat friar. Merlin, Moony, cheer the fuck up, Sirius groaned, mouthful of chips. You'd have to be dead to become a ghost. And I suppose you'd have to die here, too, on the school grounds. Remus shrugged. Dying at Hogwarts didn't seem very likely, unless something dire was going to happen in the next few days. A portrait, then, he said. Actually, no. I don't want to be able to talk to myself. That's creepy. They're really expensive too, James said. Our family never bothered. Typical Potters, Sirius said, haughtily. His plate now clean, he set the knife and fork neatly at its centre, and its hue vanished. Of course the blacks are all preserved for posterity in the family gallery. Even you? Remus glanced at him. Not me, Sirius shook his head with a small smile. I wasn't there when I came of age. Expect Reggie's been done now, though. More fool him. Remus! Marlene came running up to the dining table. She looked flushed and excited. Yeah? Remus sat up straight, looking at her expectantly. Can I see you a minute? I've got something for you. She was hopping from foot to foot, clearly very eager to tell him something. Okay. Remus glanced around nervously. He didn't like surprises, but he trusted Marlene for now. She seemed so happy. Come with me. She grabbed his hand and pulled him up. Should I? Sirius started, but Marlene shook her head. It's private. Come on, Remus. She practically dragged him from the hall, apparently not caring that he would miss Puddin' now. Hug, slow down, will ya? He panted, feeling a zip click as they began to traverse the first flight of stairs. "Sorry, I'm just so excited to show you." "Show me what?" "It's private," he sighed, and just focused on trying to keep up with her. Sometimes Remus felt he spent his whole life being dragged around this castle by people who were more athletic than him. When they reached Gryffindor common room, Remus looked at her expectantly, and she suddenly turned shy, chewing her thumbnail. "What?" he said. "Not private enough?" He gestured about the empty common room. Everyone else was at dinner, probably enjoying their pudding. They hadn't had apple crumbled in ages. It would just be Remus's luck if they were serving it today and he missed out. "I think we'd better go up to your dorm," Marlene said, setting off again, just in case. "Jesus Christ, Miles, what is this all about?" Remus followed her up the stairs. "Oh, I've suddenly decided I fancy blokes, so I've lured you up here to seduce you," she casually threw over her shoulder. "You spend too much time with Mary," he returned dryly. Once they were in the bedroom, she closed the door and Remus went to sit on his bed, his legs sore. She looked around, furtively. "Why are there only 3 beds here?" Acceptance testing for the prank went a bit wrong, Remus shrugged. Marlene just shook her head like an overindulgent mother. She reached in the pocket of her robes and pulled out a small, shallow jar and held it out to Remus. "Trousers off," she said. "Excuse me?" "It's for your hip." She unscrewed the jar excitedly, her eyes bright and eager. "I made it for you, and Danny tested it and everything." "What does it do?" He peered into the pot warily. Whatever was inside looked like Vaseline, semi-transparent with a thick, goopy consistency. "I thought about what you said about how a mixture of Muggle and magic medicine works best," she explained. "So I did some experimenting. I tried valerian and comfrey and turmeric. Turns out ginger worked the best. Who would have thought? Then just combined it with the right amount of anti-inflammatory poultice and some Dittany for extra strength. Go on, rub it on." Okay," Remus said, taking the jar and walking to the bathroom, locking the door behind him. He held it in his hands for a while, sniffing the contents. It smelt like ginger, which was fairly pleasant, and not too strong. "Shouldn't need too much," Marlene called through the door, making him jump and retreat as far into the bathroom as he could. "Just smooth it onto the skin over the sore area." "Okay," he replied croakily. It was weird, but he owed it to Marlene to try, if this was a peace offering. He unbuckled his trousers and pulled them down to his thigh, underwear and all. Then, balancing the jar carefully on the side of the bath, he scooped out a small dollop of the concoction, about the size of a grape, with his fingers and carefully rubbed it onto his bare skin. It was tingly at first, and then began to grow warm, but not unpleasantly so. He could feel it seeping into his skin, down to the joints and gristle and bone, warming and soothing as it went. It was a feeling he'd long forgotten. It was a relief. "Marlene!" he shouted. "What? Are you okay?" she called anxiously. "If you still want to seduce me," he replied, "I'd probably do anything you asked me to right now." He heard her sniggering on the other side of the door. "It works then? It's a bloody miracle." "It's bloody magic, you silly git," she replied. "Come out then." He hurriedly pulled his trousers back up and fastened them, striding down to the door and opening it up. Not so much as a twinge. His hip had bothered him for so long now, he could barely remember what it felt like to walk without being conscious of his limitations. He beamed at Marlene, grabbed her around the waist and spun her around. "Thank you," he said over and over. She squealed. "Lupin, you lunatic, let me go." He kissed her on the cheek and put her down. "You're a lot stronger than you look," she laughed, blushing, tucking her hair back behind her ear. "I'm so glad it worked. I wanted to ask Madame Pomfrey to help so many times, but I thought you'd rather I kept it to myself." "Thank you," he said again. You're amazing. I wish I had something to pay you back." "You have," she shook her head. "You helped Danny, even though you've never met him, and you knew how dangerous it was, and you helped me in the end too. I know what I want to do now. We're going to win this war, and when it's over, I'm going to start doing some proper research into lycanthropy. You know, set up real clinics so people get the help they need. If everyone else can see what I see in you and my brother, then maybe, I don't know, maybe things can be better." She was looking at her feet bashfully as she said this, but Remus couldn't stop grinning, shifting from foot to foot just to prove to himself it didn't hurt. Nothing hurt. He had to tell Sirius. "You're going to be an incredible healer, Miles." He hugged her tight again. "Can I keep this?" He went back to the bathroom for the jar, holding it up. "Course you can," she nodded vigorously. "I don't know how long the effects last. If you wouldn't mind making note of it each time you reapply, it'd be useful to know." Yeah, anything, he replied, carefully screwing the cap back on. I'd better go and find Yaz. She's got no idea where I've been all day. I told her it was to do with the prank, but I don't think she believes me. They're down in the common room, the lot of them. They just got back from dinner, Remus replied offhandedly, still staring at the jar in awe. How on earth could you know that? He glanced up awkwardly. Good sense of smell, like, really good. Her eyes widened, and she shook her head solemnly. I've got so much to learn. Come on, he laughed, patting his shoulder, one thing at a time. Sirius was a true gentleman when Remus told him the good news about Marlene's poultice, and did not say, I told you so, even once. He was too happy listening to Remus babble about how much better he felt. I don't know what I ever did, Remus sighed, after they'd gone to bed later that night. What do you mean? Sirius yawned. You know, you learnt the Tunicula Magna for me all the way back in first year. And Lily made me that reading aid, and you, Peter, and Prongs all became Animagi just so you could spend time with me. What's your point? I don't know what I did, Remus replied, shrugging, to earn any of it. Moony, Sirius gave him a funny look. You're doing that thing again. Eh? We're your friends. Friends help each other. As if you haven't done things for Lily and Marlene and Wormtail and James and me, Merlin, me more than anyone. I know, Remus replied, still smiling. I know. I suppose I just feel so lucky. You are soppy these days, Sirius smirked, folding his arms behind his head. Is that what it's going to be like living with you? And I thought you were such a tough nut. Still tougher than you, Remus glanced at him sideways. Sirius's eyes were closed, but he was smiling. Now seemed as good a time as any. Do you really want to live with me? Remus asked. Of course I do, Sirius replied, eyes still closed. I mean, not just with James's parents, in our own place. Sirius opened his eyes. Obviously, that's the plan, isn't it? Remus fumbled for the right words. He was very comfortable around Sirius now, feeling he could say almost anything, but sometimes it was still the same old struggle. I wasn't sure. You know, I haven't got much money. And you know I'm rolling in it, Sirius shrugged, making the bedsheets crinkle. What's mine is yours. I don't want you worrying about boring crap like that. It's only boring to you because you've never had to think about it. Well, no, you don't have to think about it either. Got it? Okay, Remus nodded. Something to revisit later, maybe, when there wasn't a war looming and they could have conversations about normal, everyday things. For now, they weren't talking about the war. Sirius preferred daydreams. Remus settled back. Where shall we live then? London, Sirius said firmly. Muggle London. In a big house? No, Sirius shook his head, frowning a bit. I don't like big houses. Too many empty rooms. If it's just the two of us, we don't need all that space. This was a remarkably sensible consideration, but Remus didn't say anything. He understood. But if they were being sensible? I want you to meet Hope, he said. Sirius opened his eyes again. What? She's dying, Remus said, matter-of-factly. Lung cancer, a thing muggles get. Anyway, it can't be cured, and I don't think she has more than a year. Moony, I'm sorry. I had no idea. It's okay, Remus replied. I've known since the first time I met her. I've known I wouldn't have long. She's not perfect, but she cares about me. I wanted to see that I have someone, that I'm not alone. Moony. I know, Remus laughed. I'm being soppy. No, Sirius reached over and laid his hand softly on Remus's chest. That's just one of the nicest things I've ever heard. Remus turned his head too, and they looked at each other for a bit, both smiling in the shadowy darkness of the quiet night. When his eyes began to prick, Remus laughed again, looking away. Christ, he said. Listen to us. All way worse than Potter and Evans. Don't tell anyone, Sirius laughed, wiping his eyes quickly. Only 3 days of school left. We've got reputations to maintain.